Hello, I'm Deborah Sword, here with my friend and co-host Tyson Bankert.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyson. I'm a community facilitator and artist.
I was out with friends and noticed they had different views of the same event. That itself isn't unusual. What
Hmm.
struck me was that they disagreed over how to describe the event.
Interesting. If I understand what you're saying, it was their descriptions that differed, not their opinions of the event or memories of what happened, other judgments of the outcomes. It was just the description that was different.
Right. In describing the same event, they differed on where they started their story, what points they emphasized, which parts they recall as significant, even where they had fun.
Hmm. Say more about this. I always find it really fascinating when people relay an event to me. It's complementary to my experience of it, but it reminds me of that point of view, in movies where you only get one character's point of view and you only get the whole experience once you've watched all of the different experiences of the characters. I think it's really natural that people enjoyed a particular event, but and recall that same event really differently. I think that's really quite interesting human behavior.
You're right. And the descriptions are very often complementary. So let me explain what I mean so it makes sense. Let's say you and I have an adventure and later we describe it to a mutual friend. I start the story from the time I leave home. You start the story from when we met. I recall the food, you recall the music. I enjoyed the guest lecture, you enjoyed the art. Then, if we each draw a picture, mine includes my house, the buffet, and the speaker. Your picture includes our meeting, the band, and the art on the wall. We map the event in different time and place. Our map starts, and what's inside the map's boundaries are different.
Hmm. I can imagine that if we had a disagreement about that event or and our memories are so dissimilar, it will look like we attended different events, right? That map could be really different. And it won't be intentional or uninformed, it's just a different experience. We could each believe that the other person wrongly remembers what's really happening. This reminds me of that importance that we talked about on perspective taking.
That is important. Let's play with an example. Bill and Ted have an adventure that Bill planned, and it's brilliant. Ted plans their next adventure, and it's a bust. Bill complains. Ted defends his plan. Bill compares it to his great plan, and he's just expanded the time boundary. Ted expands to defend himself. Bill backs up the time boundary to include the plan 3 plans ago to complain that Ted failed that time too. So now Ted is defending his planning track record.
Ted and Bill have some disagreements, it sounds like. If I drew this, I'd have to account for their pushing out the timeline of that conflict, right? A one issue complaint about today's adventure turned into Bill's boast about his plan into a general disagreement over historic alleged failures and grievances, to his critiquing and archiving of plans. Ted responds with escalating defenses of his plan, himself, and his track record. The boundaries, the map, shift back in time and in scope, much
Yeah,
further than I think either of them wanted to begin with.
well, exactly. It starts with differences remembering and becomes a conflict over who's correct. When no one backs down, they add past grievances and future anticipated annoyances. The original container overflows and
Hmm.
conflict boundaries blow out as well.
It's like throwing a pebble into still water and watching those ripples move out. That's how conflict boundaries expand when people see and remember different aspects of an event. If we rewind to the friends you overheard, you'd likely advise them it's okay and normal for each of them will recall different aspects of the event. If they each draw what they recall as a map, it would no doubt show their story start in different places. Notice the different things to include on their map and assess the outcome differently.
Right. And consider a relationship conflict. I ask my partner to please not leave shoes in the middle of the floor. He asks me to not tell him what to do, and I immediately have a choice of responses. I can point out that he tells me what to do. I can say it's controlling for him to tell me what I can't say. And it's game on for expanding the boundaries over who's more controlling. Or I can keep the boundary to its original dimensions, which was his shoes.
Yeah, if I was to facilitate the discussion between your partner and you, I'd like to take a piece of paper, draw a small square with shoes in it, and ask if that was the right boundary, or if we want to increase that and include all of these historic alleged grievances of who controls who.
Oh, that's good. Conflict spirals outside its container and people get caught in this spin. Then the relationship suffers. Showing the boundaries calls attention to the conflict origins, where it began spinning, how it broke through its boundary, and the hurt feelings that follow it out.
Overcoming hurt feelings is harder than not letting the conflict exceed its original container. When you notice the differing descriptions of an event, it's conflict competency to check if the differences matter enough to change the boundaries, ask those questions, to get a bigger map that includes more grievances.
That's a great summary. Thanks, Tyson. And thank you for listening. We hope you'll subscribe, like, share. Tell us about a time your conflict expanded its boundaries. And please come back to listen for more Conflict Owner's Manual tips.